One of the best strategies in your fantasy football drafts is to take the value that falls to you based on ADP. And depending on which platform you're drafting on, whether it's ESPN, whether it's Sleeper, whether it's Yahoo, whether it's CBS, whether it's NFL, whether it's wherever, there are going to be values based on those different places that you're drafting. And so these are the best picks no matter where you're drafting. Okay, we're going to look at a list of ADP for all of these platforms, compare them across the board, and then say, okay, where does this platform fall short and where should you be taking advantage? That way, no matter who you are, no matter where you're drafting in fantasy football, you can watch this video and you can be like, that person's going way too low in my format. I'm going to go and try to take them because it's going to give me a significant advantage based on where they're going in ADP in other formats. So let's look at where you can find the value. Let's look at the first 3 rounds, right? Because this is where you're going to be anchoring your fantasy team. This is where fantasy teams are going to be won. And let's look at who is way too high and way too low. First, make sure you drop a like on this video and make sure you subscribe if you haven't subscribed. We're giving you our draft guide for free. It's in the pinned comment down below. The only thing we ask that if you use that is if you subscribe to the channel. We would love to have your subscription. And honestly, we will do all that we can to give you the best and most accurate fantasy football content. All right, let's start with Sleeper because a lot of people play on Sleeper. A lot of our audience plays on Sleeper. Sleeper ADP sucks, and that's kind of a known fact among everybody in fantasy football. Sleeper ADP, it sucks. In reality, Sleeper ADP is actually the most accurate out of any of these platforms, which is, I know, interesting to say, but it's true. Only a couple players, and they're probably the ones in the lower round, are like way buried in ADP. Okay, so the main one that I've noticed so far since I've been drafting is Rashee Rice. I've done a couple of mock drafts on this channel. I've actually skipped over Rashee Rice like in the 5th round because I didn't even know he was there. We're doing 30-second mocks. I didn't scroll way down. He would have been there. But in the 5th round of the league we just did, the Pinnacle League, which had a $900 pot to it, I did take Rashee Rice in the 5th round, and that was about a round and a half before his ADP said he should be going. The main thing is, I think if people in your league are not scrolling down, they're not going to see Rashee Rice. With that being said, in a Sleeper League, until the ADP updates, I'm not taking Rashee Rice in the 4th round, most likely. I think Rashee Rice in the 4th round is about where he should be going, given the additions in that offense, but I think you can get him in the 5th. And if you don't, obviously it sucks. But if you do, you get somebody in the 4th, somebody else that should be going in the 4th, and then you get Rashee in the 5th. I think you are essentially betting that somebody's going to catch Rashee if you try to take him in the 4th, whereas in the 5th, I think you're going to be able to stack your roster even a little bit more and still take Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice is a great value still in fantasy football drafts. In Sleeper Leagues in particular, he is a very good value. He's one of the few very good values from an ADP standpoint on Sleeper, so I'm definitely taking advantage of that. Calvin Ridley is going to be another one here. We're obviously big Calvin Ridley fans, but with that being said, he's still going quite a bit lower than probably where he should be going. This is a guy that came out in the preseason, looked fairly solid, was on the field a limited amount of time, but was definitely getting the ball at a high enough rate and making plays at a high enough rate to where if you extrapolate that to an entire game, he is going to be hyper productive this year in Tennessee. Will Levis can get Calvin Ridley the ball, and Calvin Ridley does not look like he's washed. I will say that. Calvin Ridley does not look like he's washed.
He didn't look like he was washed last year.
So Ridley is...
targets.
He didn't, and honestly, like... Ridley could be one of the better picks this year in later rounds. I think you're getting him like right now in like the 6th, 7th round in sleeper drafts.
It's a good price.
That's a really good price. You're getting
way better than last year.
Wide receiver 1 that just got a huge contract, has a ton of team investment, playing with a young quarterback with a brand new head coach and offensive coordinator, and you're getting that 6th, 7th round. This allows you, if you want to go 0 running back still, or even take more running back up top and go double hero or hero running back and still get good wide receiver talent later. Not only wide receiver talent, but wide receiver opportunity in that the wide receiver 1 in Tennessee is going this late. And it's a guy that we know is a very talented receiver, can be dominant, and just got paid.
Well, and with the number of points that he scored last year, if he was going where he should have been going last year, he would have been one of the better picks in the draft.
Correct.
If he was going in the 5th, 6th round like he should have, that would have been, it would have been a huge payoff, even with only like 76 receptions on 140 targets, like the rate at which he was bringing in the ball, because the accuracy rating was so low. It didn't matter because he was still that good with such limited capitalization on the opportunity, I guess. So that's a great pick this year.
And then Javonte Williams, again, Sleeper's ADP does update at a little bit faster pace than Yahoo, ESPN, CBS, NFL, whatever. However, Javonte is now the wide receiver 1. You were getting him in rounds 9 through 11 before. Now I think he's going to slide up to round 8 or 9, but he's still a really good pick there because, again, this is a guy that allows you to go 0 running back up top, take advantage of the wide receiver which in sleeper you have to, because sleeper is pushing up those wide receivers so far that you really can't leave without wide receivers or you might be screwed. Yep. You can still grab those wide receivers though, maybe grab an elite tight end and quarterback, and then get Javonte Williams later and be like, okay, I still know I'm rolling with the positional one. It's in Denver's offense, but Denver's offense looks better than we expected it to so far, so we're going to see if that comes to play. But with that being said, Javonte Williams, definitely a guy I think is going a little bit low in sleepers ADP, and if you can take advantage of that, he's a really good second or third running back option for your fantasy teams this year. You're getting him in the 9th round. So sleeper drafts, again, they're going to be probably the sharpest. There's going to be the least amount of discrepancies, but Yahoo's one that Nathan just did, so Nathan's going to cover. If you're playing in Yahoo leagues, who you should be targeting, how you should be approaching your drafts in those leagues.
I think the downside of being in home leagues is a lot of people do drafts not on sleeper. I think the upside to it is the ADP is so gosh dang bad for so many players that if you really know what you're doing going into those drafts, you can work your league. And I was able to get my hands on a Yahoo draft and do it like literally just yesterday. And I was blown away by some of the followers on ADP that were so buried. I was like, where's Bowers? Bowers is completely gone. Like, he's not even going in the 10th round, right? He's going past the 10th round in this ADP. No one knows that he's even there. It's pretty crazy. But you're generally going to see running backs pushed up boards. This was a trend that I saw very quickly. I'm glad that I went hero wide receiver and then anchor running back in the 2nd round as well, because if I had gone double wide receiver, I would have been screwed for the entire draft. I'm glad that I snagged one. I got J. Jeff in the middle of the 1st round, and then I got Kyron on the wraparound in the middle of the 2nd. Breece Hall and Bijan are usually going 104, 105. It's going to be pretty consistent. You'll see if someone's crazy enough, they'll take one of those guys 103. And then Derrick Henry consistently going at the 1-2 turn. There's going to be a lot of people that take shots on him there because, again, most of your casuals are playing in like a Yahoo-style format, and they still believe in Derrick Henry of 2019, right? So Kupp is a pretty good price here too. I mean, Kupp at the 302 is going to be a little aggressive. I would not take him there, but if he falls like to the end or to the middle of the 4th-ish round, which I actually was able to see him go like beginning of middle of 4th, that's not that bad of a price. I think a lot of people are concerned about the injury and stuff like that, but look, at the end of the day, if you're not comfortable taking Cooper Kupp, just go ahead and take Stephon Diggs anywhere from the middle of the 4th to the beginning of the 5th. I was able to get Waddle in the middle of the 3rd, and then I went and I got Diggs in the middle of the 4th because no one wanted to touch him. I think that's a way better price in my opinion. I think Diggs offers just as much risk as Cooper Kupp does in 2024. You could argue that Kupp maybe has a higher ceiling because he's just going to do what he does in a Sean McVay offense if he's healthy, and that's, like 15 plus points per game. But I think that Diggs is a great price here in this format. Rashee Rice doesn't have a terrible ADP actually, and it's to a point where it's like, you know what, I'm just comfortable. I know he's not going to fall to the middle of the 6th. I'll just take him in the middle of the 5th because I think his price is good there as well. And that's actually what I ended up doing because I wouldn't necessarily overpay for Rashee Rice in Yahoo like you would on other platforms, but I still think that he's good. If you take him out ADP in the middle of the 5th, I think that's great. Rookies in general, this was very surprising to me. Generally, what you see in like Sleeper and Underdog and all those formats and stuff like that is all of those rookies kind of going together in the same area. So like Lab McConkey, Keon Coleman, Brian Thomas, Rome Odunze going a little bit ahead of those guys, but like all of them are pretty much in the same area. And then even Brock Bowers kind of like going around later after those guys. It's all over the place. I mean, every single one of these rookies was going multiple rounds apart to a point where Bowers was falling to the 11th round. You were getting Brian Thomas Jr. in that same price range as well. I got Bowers, I think, in the I got him in the middle of the 10th, which is not a bad price at all. Calvin Ridley as well. Like you mentioned Calvin Ridley for Sleeper. I got a great price for him in this format as well. I think this is a great time to take a shot on rookies when, again, most of your casuals are like grumpy old men with fantasy football where running backs win you leagues and rookies don't do anything. So that's why they're consistently falling so far, and that's why you're going to see ADP really reflect that general opinion of the guys that are playing in Yahoo. And then Jordan Addison.
I was going to say, I see him going next to a defense there.
Yeah. The first defense off the board in the 9th round. Like,
oh my
guys... half of fantasy football leagues have this happen consistently. Like, you're going to see this. People would take shots on defenses multiple rounds ahead of this. Like, don't say it doesn't happen. But half of the fun of fantasy football is playing with idiots. And if Jordan Addison falls to the 9th round, like, you have to take him there. You absolutely have to take him there. I gambled because he was in my hands in the 8th round. And I let him go because I thought he'd come back to me, and he went like the pick before me, and I was so ticked because I was almost able to snag him there. It was a risky gamble. I just kept playing the game though, because I was like, I could take him in the 7th easy and be happy. Easily, because I mean, we're throwing fits when we're getting sniped from Jordan Addison at the beginning of the 7th, and he goes in the 9th round here. Like, that's an awesome price. You're Jonathan Brooks again, kind of a product of just being a guy that's a rookie that's going to fall, who's starting the season on the puppy dog list. I was able to get Brooks in the 9th round, which you're not usually seeing, and then you just handcuff him with Chuba Hubbard, and you're good to go. So those are kind of some of the values that we like in Yahoo. I'm sure there's more that I'm just forgetting because honestly there were so many and I was kind of taken aback. Hollywood Brown in the 11th rounds, like there's just so many good values there. But remember, don't just look at the values and be like, oh, this guy, his ADP is 2 rounds later, I'm going to take him now because this is where he should be going. That's not how you play the game. Right? You play the game where you're like, okay, I recognize this guy going in this price range in the 6th round. I'm going to take him here because I know he won't go any further. Yeah. And now let me wait on the guy who I would usually take in the 6th round to wrap back around, and I'll get him at a discount and just end up with incredible value on my fantasy team.
Yeah, let's talk about ESPN drafts now. And the name of the game in ESPN is going to be wide receivers, because the wide receivers are drastically mispriced in this format. The only first round selection that we really have an issue with, Saquon Barkley is going at the 110. Probably wouldn't take him that early. Outside of that, everything else is fairly normal through the beginning of drafts. But yeah, I was going to say, let's look at 5 wide receivers here in ESPN drafts that you can take advantage of. Number 1, Pittman at the 212. You are not taking advantage of that.
No,
you are not drafting Pittman at the 212.
Don't do that.
That is absolutely atrocious. You're getting Pittman almost a full round earlier than where you're getting Drake London. I will say this right now very loudly into the camera. Drake London is going to outscore Michael Pittman this year in fantasy. With Drake London, he's long been, since people started drafting on ESPN leagues this year, Drake London has always been one of the best values on ESPN, okay? He's by far, that is his cheapest price. He's going everywhere. And when you're talking about the risk with Drake London, there's obviously a lot of it, but it is 100% baked into his price. We're looking across the board here. Sleeper, 18. Yahoo, 25. Underdog, 15. ESPN, 34. 34 for Drake London. So, look, your 3rd round target in every ESPN league, I do not care. I do not care how you're drafting. ESPN leagues, you're getting Drake London in the 3rd, and you're going to laugh at your league mates for it. I will say that right now. You have to go get Drake London in those drafts. Let's look at Nico Collins at the 309. Also another really good value. With Nico in sleeper drafts, he's going anywhere from like the 201 to the 26, right? Typically. Half a round later than that, probably the wide receiver 1 in Houston. Maybe it doesn't really matter, right? Because you're still getting a guy who just put up a wide receiver 1 season and a ton of yards and is going back to the same offense, playing in one of the best passing offenses in the league with one of the best quarterbacks in the league in CJ Stroud. And so with Nico at that price in the late third, abso-freaking-lutely. And so here's the other thing. Like, you could honestly, I mean, you're probably not going to get Nico in the 3rd, but the other thing is, I guess I'll say this, London or Nico in the 3rd is fine. I would even consider, and I mean, I guess you don't. If you're at like the 2-3 turn, I would maybe consider grab both of these guys. That's a pretty,
at that price. Yes.
That's a pretty broken.
I have
start,
no issue with that at all.
You have to reach on one of them is my issue, and I don't love doing that. But at the same time,
I mean, if London, I use at the 4
imagine starting.
311.
I mean, imagine starting, and you're getting him in the 2nd and 3rd round. Right. You could probably start CD, Nico, London. You could start Christian McCaffrey, Nico, London, Bijan, Nico, London, and not even think about it. Like that's insane to me. But Ayuk is also going at the 4-2. That's a smash at that price, guys. Like, again, any combination of these receivers you can get. Ayuk at the 4-2 is good. Debo at the 4-3. I don't know why those San Francisco wide receivers are going that low. Maybe in your leagues they're not. But ESPN ADP, if you're playing with anybody casual, if you're playing in home leagues, which a lot of our audience does play in those casual leagues, this is for you. Debo, Ayuk, Nico, London, those guys, you need to get as many of those guys on your roster as you can 3rd and 4th round. Yeah. Period, exclamation point. Yeah. You can't trade picks in ESPN leagues, and that's why ESPN sucks. But if you could, I'd be telling you to go get as many 3rd and 4th round picks as you freaking can and just load your roster with these guys. The running backs in this format are going to be questionable at best. It's definitely fair to be weary of Devon Achane. We've said this over and over, right? We've gone on our channel with other channels. Like we sat here with Corey from FSC and told Corey, we're like, Achane is a little bit too risky for us. I was on his channel. He's a big Achane guy. He hates Mostert. And I sat on his channel and I was like, I think I'd fade Achane and go Mostert, right? We've been the people who have been very cautious about this. And Devon Achane is going at like the 307 in this format. So within 3 picks here's the 307 is Achane, the 308 is London, the 309 is Nico. It's all you need to know. Your draft in ESPN leagues is going to be won in the 3rd and 4th round. You can see it right here. Grab any of these guys. Achane is a smash there. Mixon and James Cook are actually ahead of Devon Achane. They're at the 302 and 305. The running back values are skewed there. Pass on running back in the 3rd round, at the early 3rd, and go Achane in the late 3rd. That's what I would do. I mean, and I don't think you need to take Achane in the 2nd either, because Achane in the 2nd is risky as it is, but you can pass on Achane in the 2nd, get somebody better, and get Achane in the 3rd. Those are the best values in ESPN leagues. If you can take advantage of any of those, like I said, London, Nico, Ayuk, Debo, Achane. Get as many of those guys as you can. You're going to be in really good shape for your ESPN leagues.
Yeah,
so.
And then we've got CBS Sports being the last one that people usually, are using if they're casuals. And the 1st round is absolutely a mess. I mean, you could just poop on CBS Sports and their ADP like the entire time. You could poop on your league mates if they're simpletons the entire time, because it's just all over the place. I mean, Brees is going at the 102, CD's falling to the 105, JJ is all the way at the 110. Like we talked about me getting a steal with Justin Jefferson in the Flock League at the 110. That's not usually happening, guys. In CBS Sports it is, and that's abysmal. He's going behind Saquon Barkley, who's going at the 106. I mean, talk about cavemen. Old running backs win leagues. No rookies. Like it's so disgusting, guys. Like, come on, this is 2024. Even though I don't love Marvin Harrison Jr. as a price at like the tail end of the 1st round, if he's falling to the middle of the 2nd, like he is in Yahoo and CBS, like just go ahead and take a shot on him there. 2nd round isn't going to be much better. Puka at the 204. Yes. Thank you. Good night. Goodbye. I mean, if you're starting with Justin Jefferson and Puka Nacua on your team, barring injury, you're definitely not losing your league. That's for sure. I mean, if you're terrified of your league punishment and you get that start, you're chilling, man. You're probably going to be okay and making a push for the championship and hopefully a run in the playoffs. James Cook at the 206. No, thank you. Pass.
No.
I don't even know how many running backs are going in the 1st and 2nd round. I mean, based on how much they're being pushed up ADP, it's got to be a lot more than Sleeper and than any of these other formats. You got a bunch of falling receivers again. I mean, we just talked about London and Ayuk and Collins and Debo. London's at the 310, Ayuk's at the 405. I mean, imagine a start where you can get Justin Jefferson, Puka Nacua, Drake London, and then Brandon Ayuk back on the way around. You're as long as you can get a pretty decent value at running back at some point in like the 5th, 6th round, like you're probably again gonna win your league. Like that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. Diggs at the 502, the beginning of the 5th, JSN in the 9th round. So here's the clear trend for all of these casual formats. Running backs consistently getting pushed up boards. These are basically your people that don't do like analytics. They don't realize how much running backs have lost you leagues in the last couple of years, and they just keep on hammering running backs like they have been for the last decade or two. And you're going to reap the benefits of that, right? We've been talking about how the strategy this year might be to go hero running back. It might be to go double running back if the values are at the 1-2 turn. You definitely want to take a running back in the first 2 rounds of your fantasy draft. In these formats, might be changing our minds if you're in CBS, ESPN, and Yahoo. So just keep that in mind again when you are in one of these casual draft apps where the ADP is just all over the place. Like you cannot pass up the wide receiver value here. Even if you end up getting kind of a weak running back core, I don't really care that much. I don't really care.
Yeah. And really what you have here is like there's a spectrum. Basically the difference in these leagues is how you value running backs, right? On the far left you have underdog. Underdog hates running backs. Right? And then you've got sleeper, right? And then you've got ESPN. ESPN's kind of, normal on running backs.
Yep.
And then you've got either Yahoo or CBS and then CBS.
Probably Yahoo.
Probably Yahoo
CBS.
and then CBS because CBS seems to be, man, they're high on their running backs.
CBS and underdog could not be any different.
And honestly, like it's probably shifted more to the side who loves running backs. But with that being said, depending on where you're drafting, your draft is going to be decided by where you'll be targeting these running backs. And so again, for every single platform, there are guys that we think are really good ADP. And when you compare them across the board, when you compare them to each individual platform, you can get an average. You can compare to the average. You can be like, okay, that's way above average. That's way below average. And taking advantage of this, I think this year is going to be a league-winning fantasy football strategy, and I think you've seen this in years past as well. So do us a huge favor, check out our draft guide in the comments, and if we use that, make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers, so we'd love your help on that. Make sure you drop a like on this video if this helped you out, if you play in one of these formats, if you enjoyed the content. We appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you later.